So in the last video I discussed The Legend of Drazil and the Master of the Earth, which was the first book that I ever wrote, the first in a 7-part series, which this will also be at least a 7-part series. I was thinking about diving into the lore and adding that to the series as well, but we'll figure that out in the future. Anyway, for now, I'm going to discuss The Legend of Drazil and the Mighty Resistance, the second book in the series. It was also the last book in the series that was ever published by Publish America, or as they renamed themselves, America Star Books. I wasn't even joking about that. They literally renamed themselves a year after I published with them. It was a really confusing state. I wasn't sure what the legal part of like the previous contract was, because I technically signed it. I didn't sign it. My parents signed it. Technically, the contract was signed to Publish America, not America Star Books, but these people are the same people as before, so it's a weird, confusing mess. I wasn't sure about what the legality of everything was, but regardless, if that contract stood, then the last book is, they can't do nothing with that book anymore. And this one should be up sometime this year, because it was published in 2014. It contained 11 chapters. And you will notice that in this book, the chapters don't have names in the table of contents. I don't know why they did that, because as you can literally see, about 2 pages later, they have names. Chapter 1, the tour. They all have names. Every chapter in this book has names, because I always named every chapter that I ever wrote, ever. I've always named them. So anyway, The Legend of Drazil and the Mighty Resistance. Let's talk about the cover first, and then we'll move on to the back and talk about the blurb and about the author and everything. Which actually, about the author was literally the same as the first one. So a year after the last book was published, I contacted Publish America and told them I am ready to publish the second book in the series, and I sent them the book. This one wasn't as big. It was about 100 pages, 95 pages after publication, because they actually formatted it and edited it and everything, which I'm going to talk about. Look, they actually edited it. There's paragraphs, and it's properly formatted now. So anyway, after everything was said and done, it was about 95 pages, and I sent it to them. They accepted it, obviously, and they published it. They asked for a book cover design, so I sent them a book cover design of the leader of the Mighty Resistance standing on a hilltop in Godward's armor, and you couldn't tell who it was because he was in full armor and everything. You couldn't tell who he was. It was kind of dark a little bit. He was on a hilltop. It looked really awesome. Hopefully I can find an image of it. If I can, I'm going to put it up on screen. But if I can't, then we're not going to worry about it. Anyway, so I sent that to them, and they accepted it, I guess. They said they did. But then they sent me like a preview of the book cover, what the book is going to look like and everything, including the back and the spine. And they sent this. This was the image they sent, and I was like, this looks good, but it wasn't the cover I sent you guys. And they didn't care, I guess. They never even replied to that. I also mentioned that they had to put a big number 2 on the spine to let people know that, yes, this is the second book in the series, because I wasn't going to put like a number 2 on here anywhere in the title. So they didn't. Okay, so they didn't reply to that message. At least I don't remember them replying to the message. But when they end up resending another version of when they ended up sending another preview of the book, it had the number 2 on it, and I was like, okay, that's good or whatever. But just looking at this, I can't tell what they were thinking, because it doesn't fit to the theme of the book at all. It's nothing similar to what I sent them. I guess maybe because of this curve was kind of similar to the hilltop. Maybe that's what their idea was. Maybe they thought that meant like a person standing on Earth, so they just reinterpreted it as a solar eclipse, I guess. I don't even know if this is a solar eclipse. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's even a black hole or what it is. All I know is it's in space, and it's a big black orb with some kind of sun or something in the background. And it's got stars and everything. Anyway, the blurb, let's get on to the blurb. The blurb for this one was not any better than the last book, admittedly. So the blurb for this one is, after Drazil became master, he learned that it's not as easy as he thought it was going to be. And as you read through his story, his next story, you will see that it only gets worse and worse. Drazil learns about a resistance against him, and Drazil will stop at nothing to get to the bottom of it. So read this story and see for yourself what the resistance is up to. That's what it is. And the last one's kind of the same, but like slightly reworded. Anyway, that's that's the blurb. That's what it's about, and that's kind of what it's about. Just like the last one, it's not a very good blurb, but it kind of tells you what it's about. So essentially, Drazil's master now, and he's learning about like the ropes of it. So essentially, when you become master of the earth, there's a 4-year cycle. The first 4 years is the worst 4 years ever of being master. The first year you're gonna have basically nonstop paperwork. It's like tons and tons of paperwork that you're gonna have to deal with, and it's gonna take you at least a full year to do. The second year you're gonna be sent off to meeting after meeting after meeting, some of which is gonna involve even more paperwork. And then the third year, you're going to have sort of a chill year, I guess. It's not really a chill year or anything. It's more on the lines of, like, it's basically follow-up to everything else. If you had any leftover paperwork, you have to get it done this year. If there's any more meetings you have to go to, you have to get those done that year. If not, then you're in big trouble because you're violating some laws and stuff. Anyway, the fourth year is the worst year because that's the year where everyone can challenge you to become the next master. They challenge you and you have to accept it unless they've already challenged you the same year. And then you basically fight to the death or until one of you decides to give up, and then if you win, then you become the next master of the earth. Anyway, so what happens is he's learning about how difficult this is because he's doing all this paperwork and stuff, and he starts getting threats like in the mail. Basically, he keeps getting threats in the mail, like notes and stuff, like snuck into his paperwork, and the rest of his staff in the Master Palace, staff I guess you can call it. Some of them are just like people that helped him in the last book, but no one else is really taking these death notes seriously. These death messages, these threats and everything, no one's taking them seriously other than Drazil. And then finally the Master Palace is like infiltrated, so to speak. It's attacked by this plant creature, and this plant creature is revealed to be sent by the Mighty Resistance. That's what they call themselves, the Mighty Resistance. And Drazil, everyone starts taking it seriously now. So Drazil decides to get to the bottom of it. He opens up an investigation. They try and figure it out throughout the book while also being attacked by this Mighty Resistance and all these threats and stuff. It keeps getting more and more intense. They eventually find out that the leader is using DNA to like temporarily steal powers. Like he can use the powers kind of, but not really using the DNA. He's kind of messing with his own decrosto is what I called there was originally an organ in the brain that I called the decrosto, and that's what allowed people to use powers. But not everyone was born with a decrosto, and some people were born with like defective decrostos, some of them were too small, stuff like that, just couldn't generate powers. So not everyone in this universe had powers, but everyone kind of had the potential to have powers. This person's stealing powers and stuff, and finally Drazil finds out who it is, and they battle, and then that's the end of the book. Drazil battles them, and that's the end of the book. It's not very big, and it was kind of wasn't intentionally small. It was originally going to be part of the first book, but the first one was kind of big, and it didn't seem like this would really fit into it anyway, so I just ended up throwing it as a sequel, and then leading me into the third book, and so on and so on. Again, I pretty much remember all of them sort of well. The dedication for this one was dedicated to all of those who become legends themselves by changing the world, which was the dedication for this one. Yeah, that's what it was. So, just like the previous book, I decided to do some kind of weird intro before I started the book, and this is it here. There's a paragraph before the book starts, and it says, "Hello, once again, I am Daniel, and this is my next story where Drazil finds and discovers new things. Before I begin, I want to apologize for the lack of paragraphs in the first book, where I was talking about how I actually apologize for it because the first one was supposed to have paragraphs because I was under the impression that they were going to edit it and do it. And I think, honestly, this message here is why this one was probably formatted because, I don't know, I didn't edit this. Not at that age. Anyway, he goes, "Anyway, as I promised in the last story, all your questions will be answered by the end of this book. Anyway, by now you should know that Drazil has finally become master and had to finish fixing the palace after his battle, because at the end of the last book, during Drazil's battle with Darzil, they destroyed quite a bit of the palace, and Drazil, after he became master, he promised to repair it and fix all the damage to the surrounding area and stuff like that. Anyway, he also promised that he would be a better master than Darzil. But there are those who still don't trust Drazil, and that's what the intro was. And it's not bad of an intro. The intros I remember getting better as well as the actual story itself. And then we get stuff like this, and it for some reason, this is how you know I wrote this. This is how you know what year I wrote it in. So it says it is the 26th of January 2011. It's the first line in the book, and it says Drazil sitting in his office and blah 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 blah. He gets the first death note, not death note. He gets the first death threat that's in a letter. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this book. It's obviously a lot smaller, so this video is a lot smaller as well. So I'm gonna end it like I did the last one. And talk about the end thing at the end. I always left a the end message at the end of every book in this series. I don't remember why I did that. I just did. I thought it was something unique that I could put into my stories, and I might end up doing that again in the future. Anyway, so it says the end, and then it goes, well, that's the story, and just like I promised you in the last story, your questions weren't answered. It was impossible for so-and-so to have survived the attack, talking about the person that was behind the mighty resistance. Again, I don't want to spoil these because I want to find a way to like get all of these converted to a PDF file and like sent out to like whoever is curious to see these terrible things. All free, of course. Anyway, it says, it was impossible for so-and-so to survive that attack. I know, but he did, and just barely. And then when so-and-so showed up and did this, blah, blah, blah. And it goes, the next story I will write is called The Legend of Drazil and the Darkest Sands, which is also the next video I'm going to be talking about. So you will find in this story that giving out powers was a stupid idea. Then I will write a story called The Legend of Drazil and the Unknown Force. It turns out that so-and-so had two secrets. The second one was about their unknown power that they can't control. And then there is one more I will write. It's about birds and has nothing to do with Drazil, but that's all for now. So until then, sincerely, Daniel Ray Baldwin. That's what the message is. Anyway, so that's this full book, everything that it's about, the story, the history behind it. I remember when I was publishing it that they weren't communicating with me as well as they did for the first one, and that kind of worried me. And then that was also part of why, like, after it was published and everything, I was like, I'm done. I feel like I've been scammed, which I kind of was. But yeah, that was The Legend of Drazil and the Mighty Resistance. And yeah, until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do all of those wonderful things. And until next time, sincerely, Daniel Ray Baldwin.